A very good evening to you. This is Doc Ant again, and we are busy with leaders, our readers, and like always, my buddy in crime will be Daniel Van Sale from all the way from Cape Town. Daniel, how are you doing tonight?
I'm awesome. It's a little bit chilly tonight, but ready to go. Let's warm it up.
Absolutely. I believe it snowed in some mountain passes. So for South Africa, that is
Yes.
very, very rare. And by the way, for people overseas, we don't normally get so much snow. We're not a snow country. But yes, anything can happen. And as you guys know, in our series, Leaders Are Readers, we're busy with a book from Og Mandino, the greatest miracle in the world. And as you can see, we're both holding up our books. And tonight's about chapter 3. Chapter 3 that takes us where we actually continue now, where what happens. We find that Og Mandino hears his name being called, his name, like this bellowing voice being called, and looks up to the second floor of this flat, and there was Simon Potter and his dog Lazarus waving a blue can at him and calling him to come. Right now, I think is the first learning for tonight, and that is that often you and I, Daniel, might have our names being called. We might even be flagged down with a blue can, but do we respond? Talk
Yeah,
to me.
that's a good thing because actually, if you read the passage as well, it's like sort of like a bull. It was sort of a sound of a bullhorn, you know. Simon was really calling him because obviously to get his attention. And yeah, sometimes somebody is like sort of like take you by the shoulders and shake you and like listen, just listen, but still we're deaf to what it was, what's being said. Yes, yes,
I just think we're all guilty sometimes that we hear the voice, but it's convenient
yes,
to ignore it. But I think through this
yeah,
series, if there's one thing that I've been realizing is that through this book, I think we've been called to listen in a different way, to apply in a
yeah,
different way, like never before. You get the same feeling as me?
correct, correct.
Fantastic. So now we have Simon Potter saying, "Don't forget your promise." I mean, what did Og Mandino promise him? His book. So
His
all he
book,
wants to know
yeah,
is, where is his book? And
yeah,
this Simon Potter is a very unique guy. So Daniel, on page 19, in chapter 3, there's these 3 questions about Simon Potter. What
yeah,
are those 3 questions? Because I think we need to just park there a little bit.
yeah. Obviously, Og, in his mind, he's starting the question like, and the 3 questions comes from him thinking about it. And the first question is, you know, Simon Potter, who are you? And the second one is, what are you? And the third one is, why are you? It's all
Wow.
very interesting questions in who's this guy? Why? I can just imagine him thinking in his mind, is like, why is this guy on my path? What is the lesson here that I need to learn? That's what I get. That's why he's starting to ask the questions. And you know what happens when you ask the question? You get the answers.
You do.
You might not like it, but
Uh,
yeah, it gives you the answers.
Only if you ask. Now let's start with the first
Yes.
one. Um, who are you, Donnie? Do you know? If I'm asking you, because now obviously the listeners in, the same
Yeah.
question to you listening in. Who are you? So let's hear your answer. I'll answer for myself, but who are you?
If I were to say, if somebody would ask me, who are you? I would say I'm just a connector. I just connect people to what they need to be connected with, whatever that is. I love doing it because the people I know a lot of people, and then this guy needs that, or then I know, oh, I know this guy, that guy might help you here, or that guy might help you here. So I would say yes, in general, I would say I'm just a connector.
Awesome. Well, for me, I believe that I help people to unleash their potential. That's who I am.
Yes.
When I meet you, I honestly put in all the energy and the thought process to see how can I help you go to the next level. So that's literally who I am. But for if you're listening in tonight or in the morning, wherever you are in the world, you need to ask yourself, who are you? If
Yeah.
somebody had to ask you the question, how will you respond? So here's my challenge: take your pen and take paper and commit yourself. Just write down the question for now, because I'd like you to focus on the rest of what the book teaches us. But you need to sort out, who are you? But the next question was a bit interesting. What are you? So Daniel, okay, who are you? You're a connector, but what are you?
Yeah. Uh, there's a lot you can say about what am I. Yeah, I find it difficult to answer that specific one, because I need to humble myself and say, well, I'm just a guy who listens to my mentor and what he taught me, and take then what he taught me and then spread it to the rest of the world who's got ears to hear. So in the what am I, it's basically I'm just a servant to a higher power, God, and whatever he sends me on, then that is what I do. So what am I? I would say it's I'm just a servant.
Perfect. Well, on my side, I'm a catalyst for life change. I believe that I'm being utilized. What I do is to help people experience life change so they can become more significant. So I'm a catalyst. That's what I am. So here comes the difficult one. Why? Why are you, Daniel? What's your purpose? Why?
As my mentor once said, it's like, if not you, then what? And the why is like, if not me, then who's going to do it? There's nobody's going to stand up. And the reason why I do it is because I believe there's good in every person. No matter how horrible people think they are, there's always good in somebody. And for me, is why do I do what I do is because I want to see the good in people come to the forth, and to share what I know from my mentors and the teachings I've got, to share with other people so that they also can experience that, the good in them.
Fantastic. Great answer. I'll tell you what my why is. Well, my why is to help people dream in terms of what is possible. What is possible if they really just kick down, gear down, and say, what's possible? So that's my why. My purpose is to help people to sort of dream again, to imagine again that their lives can be different. And I put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah.
And I think very much, if you look at the interlude between Og Mandino and Simon Potter, it brings
Yeah.
us in this chapter to the point of asking these pertinent questions so that we can sit, we can ponder, we can think about it, and then we actually have to commit to what it is.
Yes.
But
Yes.
here's my advice to people listening in today, and that is that don't try and get the right answer immediately. It's okay to say, right now, I don't know. That's fine.
Yeah.
But at least set an objective and say, in the next 24 hours, let me mull over it, and let me at least take a pen and paper and commit something to why, what, and who. Because you want to start with who you are. What are you? And then why? Because your why is, I mean, it's literally, why do you get up in the morning? I mean, why do you actually get up and go into the same job day after day and you're bored to death, and you come home exhausted and you really don't feel like going back to the next day? Why?
Yeah.
Well, are you living your purpose? I don't know. It might be a means to an end, but is that what really fires you up? My mentor actually said to me, what does your ideal day look like? What does your day
Yeah.
look like if you just, when you wake up in the morning? And funny enough, by about 10 o'clock this morning, I looked at my beautiful wife and I said, you know what? Right now, I'm living that perfect day. I mean, um, I felt that I started first with a prayer of gratitude. I was just grateful for the day. I then went for a 10K run. Okay, let's call it a jog, not a run. 10K jog. But I enjoyed it because all the time I'm speaking to my creator and I'm thinking, what am I going to do for the day? A fulfilling time. And then got to get home, got to have breakfast with the love of my life, look into my mountain, just go like, man, am I blessed? And that's when I said, I'm living that perfect day right now. And when we're done with breakfast, I'll go and purpose myself in terms of helping someone else get to the next level. Let's see who I'm going to help. So that's sort of my day, just in terms of today. And, Daniel, I would like you to encourage people to go out there and say, what's your perfect day like? Have you scribbled yours down or not yet?
Yes, I have, and you'll find out the more you do it, the more it changes. So every year, I try to do it every year on a certain day. Then I write down my perfect day, and I will see through the years. I've been doing this now for probably about 5-6 years. Every year, there's a little bit of change, a little bit of change, because obviously as you mature and you learn more, that starts to change a little bit. So yeah, it's your perfect day, but it's also a changing phenomena. And even if you hit your perfect day today, 10 years or a year, even a year from now, your perfect day is going to be a little bit different than the one you say today is your perfect day. So it's a constant thing that we need to work on.
Absolutely. So I want to encourage those listening in to say, what is your perfect day? What will it look like? What will it be like? So just put your pen to paper and start dreaming in terms of what is possible. Now, don't let the negativity come into your mind to, oh, but I don't have the money. You actually need to say to yourself, if money was not an issue, if I had all the money in the world in my bank account, and I didn't have to worry how to hustle to look after myself from a daily living point of view, what would your life look like? What would you do? Now that's when you start purposing yourself in terms of your perfect day. Just a bit of encouragement there.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
August got it.
it's in the word itself. It's perfect. So there's no limitations to what it can be. I mean, write it down. That's all it's going to be.
And remember, your perfect day and my perfect day could be totally different, but it's
Yes,
your perfect
definitely.
day. And yes,
Yes.
I want to agree with you, Daniel, that it keeps on changing as we mature and as we actually get to different places. No doubt. We swing the page and we get to page 20. And we now see again, Og is just thinking and he's fascinated by this conversation that he has with Simon. And he says, who was he? Where did he come from? What is this latter day Isaiah doing in my life? And he sort of sees in his mind, because of this big guy and the beard and what have you, it says it's like a Bible figure. Guy says, what's
Yes.
he doing in his life? And then he said they speaking to his PA, Pat Smith, and he says, my secretary of the book, the greatest salesman in the world from my inventory. He says, toward closing time, I asked Pat, my secretary, the requisition of a copy of my book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. Okay. Now, obviously, there's a reason why he's asking for the book, and that's it. Okay, hold it up. So that was the first one where Og literally became known globally of the greatest salesman in the world. And I think he was inspired, but it's getting him think of how that book impacted his life and how he's
Yeah.
now busy writing this book. All right, and he's just thinking of how many copies has he made. And I think it says here he's had 400,000 hardcover copies. Now,
A lot.
400,000. Holy crocodile. That's a lot of books. Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's a bunch.
And you know what? And he says there, and he never saw it on the big city bestseller list, but he had to sell 400,000 copies. So I think what the real thing is here is the application. People who get this
Yes.
book use it. You can see mine's falling apart because I'm using mine on a daily basis. And that is that you use this book because it's a guideline in terms of how do you approach today? How do you approach your
Yeah.
thinking process? How do you approach what you're about to do? In fact, if we go to the top of page 21, there are three big keys where I'm going to spend a little bit of time there of how Og, now that he's reflecting, and he says the following, could I handle it? He's thinking, he says, you know, if I now all of a sudden have a home run and I make a lot of money, he asks three specific questions that really made me think, and I'm just going to make you, the listener, think today. One, could I cope with all this sudden wealth? Daniel, how does that hit you? Could you, if all of a sudden all the gold of the world rolls up to you and it gets available to you, made available, could you cope with all that sudden wealth?
I would say if you take me a few years back, then no. There's a thing called financial wisdom, and that's also if you look back in time, is all the lottery winners, what 90 or odd percent of them are bankrupt off within like 5 years, and that comes with it. You know, if you're not, if your mind is not trained, I always use the analogy is if this level is where your finances are, or your mind is according, or what your income is, like let's say it's 10,000 and you get like 100,000, your brain is going to say, well, this is not where you are, you're down there, and it's going to bring your wealth down to your level. But if your mindset is high and you know what to do with money, and you're down here getting the 10,000, it will bring you up to the 100,000 or plus whatever it is. And that's the analogy I always use is, you know, if you're not, I won't say frugal with your money, but if you don't know what to do with the money that you get and how to invest it and how to grow it even more, then yeah, you will lose it. You will spend it on things that's irrelevant. And that's my analogy on that. So
I tell you the way I put it. I say to myself, if that happens to me, you have to ask yourself one question. Do you know how to purpose that wealth?
exactly,
If
yeah,
you know how to purpose that wealth, if you know how to channel that money, it will work for you. And quite rightly, I
yes,
mean, you took the thoughts out of my mind in terms of all these lottery winners. I mean, they're happy chappies for 3 months or maximum 3 years, and then they're bankrupt again. Why?
yeah,
Because they just did not have the coping skills to purpose their money. But
yeah,
what I find fascinating, Daniel, is, you know, guys like you and me, we have mentors. We listen to people, and irrespective of how old I am, I've got 5 mentors in my life because I believe one thing: you cannot grow in a vacuum. So I still
yeah,
soundboard. I still go for what do you think, and I bounce it around because, you know, two minds are definitely better than just my mind, especially when it gets twisted and it gets busy, and especially when you start questioning yourself.
yeah,
Then things go wrong. So yeah, the first question there was, could I cope with all the sudden wealth? The second one was, what kind of personal price would I end up paying for all of this? Ooh. So it's all about what personal price would I pay?
yeah,
Now, people lose their characters. People
yes,
lose who they are because all of a sudden they are trying to project, live who they're not. I mean, have you seen these guys that go on all of a sudden is on a boat cruise and everybody's drinking champagne and they're having a raucous party? But that, you know, that's 24 hours. Maybe they lost through one night. Maybe it's 48 hours. They didn't even sleep that
yeah.
night. You know what I mean? And I won't tell you why. You know, those guys get into habits that they should not be in. And funny enough is, I find it fascinating is only the people that have got mega, mega, mega opulence that get attracted to that far more easily than the normal guy that is going to his work day to day and knows what he has to do to put the bread on the table. So
Yeah,
when the money comes, and that is there, at what personal price would he end up with all of this? I love
yeah,
the way how Og is challenging himself and saying, can I handle the wealth? At what personal price? I think that's absolutely fantastic for him to get on that channel.
yeah. You have to ask that question for yourself: is the money going to change me, or am I going to change the money? I would put it that way.
Ooh, say that
And
again,
most
Daniel.
people,
That was so profound. Just say it to our listeners again.
it's it's either does the money change you, or do you change the money?
I love that.
So
Quote
if the
unquote,
money
my
change,
friend
if
Daniel van Sale, write that down. That is the quote of quotes that I've heard for today, for sure. Well done, Daniel. Love it.
because if the money changes you, then you have a problem, because then you don't know yourself. And if you can change the money, in other words, as you say, you know, you repurpose the money, then you know yourself already, and you can trust yourself with millions and billions of money, because you know that the money is going to go to the right way, and it's not going to influence you as a person or change you as a person.
Absolutely. The third question is the one that literally had me shaking in my boots. Would I regret it later? Ouch. You know, we get choices on a daily basis. Things
Yeah,
come toward us. Sometimes we do purpose our lives in such a way, and things then happen to us as a result of that. But would you regret your decisions? Would you regret the decision that you made? I mean, I don't regret one moment my time I'm spending with you. If I just look at the comments last week of people that were with
yeah,
us
see,
and say, yes, that makes sense. I mean, that of in itself made me not regret what we're doing, because our whole purpose is to say to other people, let us just help you think through this book.
yeah,
Walk with us, read with us, live with us, because you know what? It's changing who we are and who we are becoming. You know, later on, we're not human beings. We are human
yeah,
becomings. We are
yes,
becoming more every single day.
brilliant, yeah,
So
brilliant,
the question is, it's either asking the right questions, or he says there's one thing, it's all about the prisons we build around ourselves.
correct.
Now, I find that fascinating, that even then people have got the ability to grow and go to the next level. They've built a prison around themselves and they would not let themselves venture out a little bit. You know how many
Yeah.
people end up in the graveyard with so much potential, but they never tried to write a book. They never told those beautiful stories of hope to their grandchildren because they held it all to themselves, thinking they're not good enough. Why? The prison they put their mind in, because they literally built prison walls around their head, and they could not get out of that thinking capacity. And it started with the way they think about themselves, the self-doubt, and putting themselves in that prison. Now, Daniel, if you can be honest.
I can condense that down to one single thing, and that's simple fear.
Yeah.
Fear of the unknown. As to say that you're so good with that acronyms or the word display with it. Fear is mean false evidence appearing real.
Correct.
And mostly is everything that's negative in the world that that for me, my perception is it's just because of fear. We fear doing it, so we don't do it, because in our mind somehow something tells me don't do that because it's going to hurt you, because our mind is always protecting itself. And by doing that, it pushes fear into us. So we fear, it's like, nah, don't go, I'm not going to feel happy doing that, or I'm not going to feel so nice. But sometimes you have to be that little hurt to get to the other side where the goodness are. And that fear is for me, that's the prison we build around ourselves so that we can't go forward.
Well, let's take that same acronym into what we can do with it. Face your
Yeah.
enemy and run. Face your enemy and run. Okay, run
Yes.
in the right direction though. Okay. Well, then we actually get to the point that after all these pondering, Og Mandino begins to say and write, and he says, for Simon Potter, and he then wrote a message in this book for him. And I want you to read that paragraph of what did he write in the book to Simon Potter. This is profound.
It says, for Simon Potter, God's finest rag picker with love, Og Mandino.
Because obviously the first one that stands out is the rag picker. Can we just go back to the previous chapters? What is a rag picker again? A person that does what?
Somebody who picks up the unused things and make it usable.
But in Simon's case, it was people, using people, picking them up, and just giving them hope and taking them out of the garbage cans of life.
Yeah.
And he ended and said, with love. You know, none of that is possible without love. And I found that is actually quite profound. So for me, yes, because we've spoken about the rag picker before, I sort of accepted that, but when I saw with love, that just illustrated one man to another man to say with love. You know, Daniel, I can tell you that with much love, I appreciate you because you were my rag picker that picked me up.
Amen.
Our mentor that we now collectively have is definitely our rag picker as well. Because he's picking us up on a daily basis. But it's to realize that with love. But then he described two words. He said, what kind of rag picker? And that is actually the essence of it. He said, God's
finest.
God's finest. Oh, you know, whenever you and I think of wearing something expensive, like your finest suit, your finest jewelry, I mean, and that's really what it is. And he said to him, you're God's finest rag picker. Now, I live for the day where I've purposed somebody else's life, where they can actually think, you know, Ant was really God's finest. There's no greater accolade than to know that your Creator is smiling upon you and is happy with what you did. Would you agree with me?
100%, 100%. That I mean, even if you go further than that, is you're already there. You're already helping so many people, and you don't even know it. But one day we'll find that when we go there, it's like, listen here, when you did this, this is who you help. When you did that, that is where you help. Mostly the greatest things that I've discovered, the people with that, how can I say, the least accolades is like, hey, put him on a pedestal. This guy did this. This guy did that. The ones that's quiet and you don't really hear of them, they mostly are the ones that did the biggest, gave the biggest gift to the people and helped the most people.
I call that the submarine move. Hey, you don't see them, But when there's action, there's explosion. And that's
Yes.
just the way it works. And all you can see sometimes is a possible periscope of just quickly, you're at,
Yes.
and gone
Having a look.
again. But
Yeah.
those people quietly, silently can do it. But turn that around as well. Often people have a silent killer in their lives. They've got that very thing that quietly is eating them up and is sabotaging them to rob them
Correct.
of their joy, to rob them of who they can be. And it can, as you say, could have been fear, the fear
Yes.
of failure, the fear of
Yeah.
rejection. I find those are the two biggest ones for me. People suffering from the fear of failure, they don't want to try. What if I fail? Miles says, so what? Now, John Maxwell, one of my mentors, says, when you fail, fail forward and at least take
Yes.
some ground, man. You know?
Yeah. Fall
So
forward.
I don't
Yeah.
mind falling flat on my face and taking some ground, because John Maxwell
Yeah.
is going to go, there you go, attaboy. Okay,
A
so
little
the
bit closer.
fear of failure, and then the fear of rejection. So what if people reject you? What about those that accept you and love you? Often, when I just sense this to somebody listening in here today, because one person thought that you weren't good enough, doesn't mean that you're not worthy. There are so many other people who appreciate you for who you are, for what you said, who you've been in their lives, that you need to say to yourself, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Don't let one person's rejection decide your destiny. It was a
Correct.
lie.
And since we're talking about the love and the fear, do you know that according to what I would say is the antidote to fear is love? Because when you start doing things out of love, fear disappears. It just evaporates. It's gone. Because if you love doing something or you love helping somebody and you are afraid of doing things, when you love to, when you want to, or what to say, when you love to do it, then fear will not interfere there.
Well, I'm going to quote our mentor, Robert Hollis. He actually says, when you love yourself, you will trust yourself.
Yes.
I thought that was profound. Because if you do love yourself, you trust yourself to do, or that you
What's
believe
right.
what you said you're going to do, you actually will do, because you
Yeah.
trust yourself. And he brought an analogy in terms of someone that is overweight, and he said, do you know what? Your body can't trust you. That's why when you do eat the wrong things, it holds on to everything.
Yeah.
It cannot trust you because it thinks you're going to starve it, because you are
Yeah.
not feeding the body correctly. And I
You're
thought
gonna
that was
kill it.
profound. I mean,
Yeah.
a thinking body, a brain that
Yeah.
says, no, 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 you are feeding me junk. I'm going to hold on to all of this stuff. And that's why, because I don't believe you're getting me nutrition. But funny enough, when we change the way that we eat, when we change the way that we
Yeah.
think about our eating, all of a sudden, the body records, oh, okay, he's eating good stuff. Oh, I'm getting fed. I'm getting whatever I need to get. I'm getting proteins, I
Nutrients
get
and
my
stuff. Yeah.
carbs, whatever. And I can chill. This dude is feeding me. Then you'll
Yeah.
stop holding up to all the things you shouldn't be holding on. And that's how people lose weight. So here's the message from Daniel tonight, and that is love yourself, to trust yourself so that you can have a breakthrough. Fantastic.
Perfect. Yeah.
But it sometimes comes back to the number. And again, he speaks about the door number. What is the door number of
21.
this flat where he is? He said, I
21.
found number
21.
21, crawled in yellow crane above one of the lobby mailboxes, hit the button twice, and I climbed the stairs. And Simon was waiting for him and said, you remembered, you remembered. So we see here's Og knocking in the door, 21. Okay, Daniel, why is 21 significant? Can I tell you
You
this?
told me that you told me the other day, and it's to do with some maths that you need to do, and it's to do with a 3 and a 7. But
That's
you know what that is, so let us know.
God's finest number is the number 7. But we know that the greater God is a triune God, God the Father, Son, and Spirit. The 7 plus 7 plus 7 is 21. Boom. That's
Exactly.
why it's significant, because I believe Og wanted us to work it out, is that there is more to this number than just a number, because he kept on mentioning it, kept on mentioning it. He would not have mentioned if it was not significant for us to deduct what is he telling us, what is he getting to. Okay, so on page 22, so now they basically interluding, and they're speaking about rag picker and God's finest, and they said, am I really God's finest? And then they got back to a term that we used in one of the previous sessions. And it says, guided by the hand of God.
And
Now,
of God.
I remember that Og said, that Simon said, well, just look there. This is why I could become that. Because he looked towards all the books in his room and he said, and those were placed by the hand of God in my life, and that's why I could become the finest rag picker. So there's a major key. What do you believe is this telling us, and what the listeners should be finding out in terms of the books that's on our shelf, the time that we spend? What's your message to us?
I would say there's messages in all the books that we read, and it's interesting to see, but because people do a lot of these things these days, but they don't actually do these things where the information is. And as we go on into the chapter we're busy now, is the more you put into your mind and your brain, the more you learn, the more wise you become. So I would say it's important that we read as well, because that's a form of putting wisdom in your mind. And as Og was talking to Simon, that is how Simon became the rag picker, because he learned it through the books and the methods that's in the books, and not just reading it, but applying it as well. So that's how we could help people in their situations.
Now, if you look at the two, I mean, obviously, Og Mandino is the learned man, the successful guy,
Yes.
super successful. Simon is just an average guy, but he has poured out love in helping, starting way with that first act of love, of giving his time, giving his service. That Simon says, somehow I get a premonition. When I'm with you, I keep on thinking about things. And there's when I'm with you, things feel different. Now, isn't it true?
Yeah.
That sometimes you and I spend time with people and we just have this feeling because we are with them. It feels like it's a familiar scene. It feels like, man, I've been here before. Isn't that true?
Deja vu. Deja vu.
That's what the French call it. Deja vu. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it sort of feels, man, I've been here. So you often will relate. And remember, your brain is wired in such a way to actually remember every single detail of your life, every incident, every obstruction you had in life, every victory you had in your life. You should be able to recall all of those. I mean, I love playing a game with my wife. Do you remember when? ... She hates it. I love it. Why? It makes me think of times when we were happy, times that we were laughing together, times when we were challenging one another, times when we said, no, stop. I do not approve of what you're doing. So it is literally a whole fruit basket together of good and bad. But when you can get to, do you remember when? The deja vu in terms of, okay, I think our mind starts building a pattern in terms of what is possible. Because you can actually feed it garbage. We're going to get to that just now. Or you can decide not to feed it garbage. Now, we're talking about reading a book. This is definitely stirring up the best in me. It's helping me be the best version of who I can possibly be. And the same for you. That's why we decided, let's tell other people about it, because it's going to help them. Then he actually referred to Carl Menninger. And he says, Dr. Carl Menninger wrote that the human mind is far more than the brain's little bag of tricks. This is not a bag of tricks. This is more, it's deeper than that. It's up to human instincts, human habits, human memories, your muscles, your sensations. It's all about your personality being stimulated through your thinking. Now, question, how often do you and I stop to just ponder and think about life, and to think about where we've done well, and to think about our successes, and to think about the things that do sensitize us to what is sensational? I mean, I've seen some goals in soccer that has just blown my mind. Sensational, a ball that curves in and whacks in. I mean, it's something that is just, what is that even possible? That's why you remember it. But the thing here, that in terms of our personalities, is about the instincts and the habits. Now, Daniel, that can be good or that can be bad. Can you just relate, if you just a message to someone in terms of what have you seen where people actually fall into poor instincts and bad habits?
Well, that's easy to be seen out there. I mean, crime is one of those where people, for some reason, fall into bad habits, and that leads to something worse and worse and worse and worse. And that is I would say the one bad side of it, where you can well, see, this is the problem, and this is, but it's not only that, it can be smaller and more insignificant things as well. Oh, I didn't do this, or I didn't do this small thing that would have helped somebody. That is in itself also, I would say, if you add them up, it becomes a bad habit at the end of the day. And that's how bad habits start. We started with the small things that we don't recognize we're doing, and then that builds onto itself to become a problem later on.
Absolutely. That's why my company that Michelle and I run is called Growth Habits. We want, when we have a habit, for something to grow, good habits to grow. But now if I see that he now refers to Carl Menninger, and then on page 24, he actually refers to Milton. Now, can you see he's Messinger, Milton? What is Simon Potter doing? He's reflecting on what he's been trained, what he's been taught. But he's been self-taught because he's been reading. And you and I have an opportunity to make time to read. So yes, we can watch a beautiful Netflix movie, but do we make time, some quiet time where we just sit, read, and absorb so that our mind can be stimulated? Because look what Milton said, the mind is its own place, and itself can make heaven of hell and a hell of heaven. Let's say that again. The mind is its own place. In itself, it can make a heaven of hell and a hell of heaven. Ooh, in your mind. So what sort of examples come to your mind? What can happen?
A lot of things. If you put in the wrong ideas in your mind, it will come out as a wrong idea, and you will do the wrong things. So if you learn from the wrong people, and they teach you bad things that you know is bad things, you'll become that person, and you will become that wrong or a negative. Just on the opposite side as well, if you focus on the good people do, and you start putting the good into your mind and doing the good, you become a good person.
Well, if I just take the word self-doubt, that to me is negative.
Yeah, that's negative you put into you.
Yeah. Poor self-image, negative. All right. Self-worth, getting positive.
Yeah.
Because your self-worth is not dependent on you, because your self-worth has been given to you by the person who created you, saying that you have been fearfully and wonderfully made. You're not a mistake. And I mean, if you compare your self-belief of what you believe with your poor self-image versus your self-worth of what he said, who you are, well, that makes a big difference. But you see, it's here in the mind, because you just said the secret is, it's all about how to control our mind for our benefit. Now, can we control our mind? Is it possible? Or is it impossible to control our mind? What do you think?
I think it's possible, because if you feed it positive, as you will later on say, vibes as we know it today, then you will get positive vibes out. And I believe that, I mean, me myself, I've changed this book just by putting this into my mind, by reading it and doing what it says, changed me. So yes, the principle is right, is there. If you feed your mind, you train your mind, you become a different person. And you will see, and how I put that.
Feed your mind. How often do we eat food? We eat 3 times a day. How often do we eat food? That's why
not that much.
That's why.
And to just add on to that, to prove the point, is, if you look at yourself 5 years ago, are you still the same person? No, you're not. Because there's a lot of things that came into your mind, whether it's from the books or the company you keep, that has changed you as a person.
Well, you know what they say, you're the summary of the 5 people that you spend most of your time with.
Yeah, that's scary.
Well, he goes after Milton, he actually goes to James Allen, and he says, as a man thinketh. Now, we know it's all about your mind. As you think, so you are. In other words, whatever we allow to enter our minds will always bear fruit. I'll be honest with you, that hit me like a ton of bricks. Whatever you allow to enter your mind will always bear fruit. Now, listen, I'm human. I can tell you one thing. If I see something that is beautiful and voluptuous, I can appreciate it. But I also know I must not let it nest in my head, because it's going to bear fruit. Bear fruit that says I am thinking of the things I should not be thinking of. I want to tell you the story of how beautiful my wife is. My wife knows that I like to look at a woman from behind. It's just something beautiful for me. And one day we're in church, and there's this lady in front of me, and man, I don't know how she got into those denims, but they were white. But she must have had a hanger to pull them up or something. And I see my wife disappear. You know what she did? She went to the next pew between that woman and myself, so that when we were worshiping, I could not see her. Now that's somebody that knows her husband very well. Because you see, she
Yeah.
knew that that thought can produce fruit. But you know, fruit
Yeah.
can be good fruit or bad fruit. And as you
Bad
know,
fruit.
a
Yeah.
bad apple can just make the whole basket rotten very, very soon. So that to me is just one beautiful time of me remembering how my wife, who knows me, who studied me, went in between myself and the woman so that I could actually focus on what I was supposed to do. And it was not on the woman. Isn't that
Yeah,
beautiful?
she's just acting like the farmer. It's like he sees the wheat growing, so instead of like letting it grow and seed, he kills the wheat before it becomes.
True. So it's what will you do with it? Well, then
Yeah,
they spoke about the GIGO principle. What is that?
garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah. Now, where do we get that from? That's true. You know, always we blame the computers that we work with, but if
Yeah,
you put garbage in, garbage will come out.
yeah,
But I must say, nowadays, ChatGPT has made a big difference in terms of that, of helping you, helping me. If we ask the correct question, we'll get a good return in terms of what we do. You know, I've always said, but I think my statement is now going to become outdated in the next year. I've always said the answer is in the question.
yes,
But I've soon found out that with ChatGPT, it's because I know how to ask good questions, I'm getting good replies. So if you're
yes.
asking good questions, you're going to get good fruit. But if you ask the wrong questions, you're not going to get the
You're
fruit
gonna
you
get
so
the wrong
desire.
answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
It's like it's also like a computer. If the program is wrong or corrupted, then yeah, the thing won't work. It doesn't compute as it should compute, to put it that way. And that's basically what your brain is. Your brain is a combination of neurons and things that keeps memories and stuff like that. And if that's why my personally, I don't to a little bit on the track, but off the track as well, is why I don't watch television. It tells your vision. So that's what
oh,
television is
powerful. Say
for.
that slowly, Daniel. That was so good. Say it again.
It's television. It tells your vision, and your vision is one of your biggest for your brain. It's to observe what's around it for security reasons. We're made like that. We see things and we can perceive it's danger or not. Your hearing does it well, but your vision is basically that. And television is how people or the good and the bad is all mixed together,
Correct.
and it tells your vision, that tells your brain, and that's how it's called.
And
That's
it's very subtle.
also
Very subtle.
that's also why you look, and if you look at the programs, it's programs that's on the television.
True.
It's a programming of your vision for your mind.
Ooh, that's
So the
subtle.
television programs your mind. So be careful on what you watch and perceive on the television, because that's how they do propaganda. And no, this is good, this is good, this is good for you. Meanwhile, it's like, is it really good for you?
And the thing is, as you feed your brain with that stuff, guess
Yes,
where your brain will default to when you put under
exactly.
pressure? To
Yeah.
the wrong
And
things that were told to your vision because of your new programming that overrode what it should have had.
yeah, and the television has just got a little bit smaller.
It's true. I mean, I call this a look down age. Have you
Yes.
seen in the street, everybody is on their phones looking down? People don't make eye contact anymore. I mean, they're all just on their phone.
Yeah.
And in fact, we were laughing so much as a family. We went on this holiday. We were going to go when the snow was in Annenberg, South Africa. So we went for our
Yeah.
outing. And 4 kids. I mean, my kids are today, they are 42, 41, 40, and 39. So people always say, gee, did you not have a television for 4 years? I said something like that. But yeah, we were sitting at the table and we chatting and we making a lot of noise. But the table next to us, also 4 children, but none of them saying a word, but they're all on their phone. And then every now and then you just see and then look at each other and nudge, nudge. These kids were younger than what our children were. And they were all on their cell phones communicating to each other, but they were not having eye contact. They were not verbally expressing themselves. They were within themselves. And I thought, what a loss of opportunity to learn how to communicate.
Interaction, yeah.
Remember, your home is where you learn to make mistakes. That's where you want to learn to communicate. That's where you want to use a word. You're never going to know that word is out of context. In fact, what started happening to Michelle and I, as we were writing books, every now and then we would actually use a word, and then Peter would say, "Dad, Mom used a big word," and they sort of mocked us a bit because that was the check back, because the home was the safe place to use your word, use your vocabulary, because that's how we get guided. Well, read for us there on the top of 25. It's speaking about what you're talking about. Read for us. On the other hand, if you, the top part, go for it. Page 25.
Is it there where you can actually become whatever you are thinking? Is it that part?
Yeah.
Okay, and then it goes, so we stop there or go for the bigger one that's next to that.
No, that one. You can actually become whatever.
As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's powerful.
It's not so easy. And you know what? We can't bull dust. In fact, can I say it tonight? Stop bullshitting yourself. Let's not do it ourselves. As we think it in our heart, so it becomes. Because if you have got ill thoughts that is in your mind all the time, what happens is it literally gets to your heart. And once it sinks here, you know, I call it, it's the head, heart, hands principle. If it's in your head,
wow.
it sinks down to your heart, and then you can't help it. Whatever comes from your hands is because of what has already been implanted in your
connection,
heart. Those three are interconnected.
Doesn't that come through?
Hands.
Yeah, that 3-7 thing that we're talking about, the 21.
There you go. Those three, they all come into it, and that is how you can either program yourself the right way or the wrong way, because you know there's a good book that says, "Guard your heart, for from it is the wellspring of life." Proverbs 4:23. I mean, it comes naturally for me because I realize if there's no ways that the same heart can have beautiful, crystal clear water from a brook and putrid water at the same time. It's either or. And that's what it says, guard your heart. For from it, the wellspring of life.
Everything comes,
When you spend time with people, and I'm not talking to our listeners, when you spend time with the people, what comes out of that fountain of your heart? Is it good energy? Is it good vibes? Is it good communication? Is it uplifting of nature? Or is it just moan, groan, and doom and gloom? Well,
oh, woe myself.
You attract who you are.
Yeah. And that fits in perfectly within the next sentence following that.
Go for it.
Man is made or unmade by himself.
Correct. It's a choice. Because that's
so whatever, for me, that says one thing, and that is, yeah, you guys might find yourself in a bad place. Unfortunately, it's you that made the choices to get you there. But here's the good thing. You can make a little bit of different choices and be not in that place anymore.
True.
And be in a better place. It's about the choices you make and the decisions you make at the end of the day.
And that's exactly what our writer said. He says, by the right choice and true application of thought, man ascends to the divine perfection.
Exactly.
By the right choice and true application of thought, man ascends to the divine perfection. Now, we know the Creator is God. You just have to look at it. The sun comes up every day at the same time. I mean, there's just an order. There's just a perfection. I mean, nothing happens. There's no big bang, because what I've just seen, anything that bangs is a crash and there's a noise and everything falls apart.
Yeah.
But this says that the way that we think and the true application connects us to the divine. That's it. And why? By the right choice. By doing what?
Choice.
By programming our minds.
Yeah.
Now, Daniel, your mentor has worked with me. How do we program our minds? What do we call that word? You and I need to do what?
Action.
But before action, affirmation.
Yes.
You need to say, all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. That's something that I affirm every single day. And you know what? Whatever you proclaim will become the product of what you receive. And I say that every single day. All of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. I am a son of the Most High. I am gifted. I am. And there's nothing wrong in saying that, because you need to input good food into your brain. As a man thinketh, and hopefully if there's
So he
enough that
is.
stuff there, that will come down to your heart. What's in your heart will be pure, so that when it hits your hands, people can see the fruit of good thoughts and good thinking.
And that also comes to make it just easier. I would compress that into one word as well.
Yeah.
Is belief. You
Believe.
have to believe in yourself.
Yep.
And that is one of the things that this book is going to teach you, is because you need to believe in yourself to do the right thing at the right time, so that you can become the best version of yourself. And if you don't believe that, doesn't matter what you put in, it's not going to happen.
You know, I wish we had a big class in front of us. I would have said, can we ask the question, who here truly believes in themselves?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the majority of people will not put their hands up, because people do not believe in themselves, do not believe in their abilities. Well, I can see that definitely time is catching us tonight, so we have to start landing this plane, have to start talking about places. Now we speak about, where does Simon Potter come from? And we find out this dude on page 26 was headed up the largest export and import company in Germany. And then he was going to say, and I want to talk about another place, and something happened out of the ordinary. Out of Og Mandino's mouth came Damascus.
Damascus,
went, yeah. How do you know? And there was something about this relationship. Remember, he said it was like a premonition when I'm with you. And the guy was talking, and before he even knew it, the word Damascus came out of his mouth and played a vital role. So there you go. From there, the road of Damascus. You know, I know, but another guy who's on the road of Damascus had a life-changing experience, and his entire life changed. And I think that is what Og has got, this ability to take that experience and put us into that picture or into that story, to say, what if that was me? Would I have used this opportunity to change radically? Yes or no?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, well, what I like about the premonition is that all of a sudden it just happened. And he was thinking, how in the name of God did I know that? And you have to challenge yourself. How did you know that? Because you see, I think there's something to do with the 21.
Yeah.
If your numbers add up, man, they add up. It's up to you.
A hand from above.
That's right. And then obviously asked him, how many branches did you have? And he had 10 branches. And
10.
you find that 10 comes up quite significantly, because you know one thing, and that is that whenever we do good, it comes back to us tenfold.
Tenfold.
So that 10 is playing a big difference. And then he found out that Og was actually a company president of a massive company. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Og started speaking about, in his book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, and he says, you know what? This story is about a camel boy. And what is the camel boy's name?
Caleb, or what's it? It's a weird name.
Hafid,
yeah.
In 27. And they said, I mean, this guy, little Hafid, was challenged in this book to go and sell something to prove that he's a good salesman. But he failed. He failed.
Yeah, he was supposed to sell a robe or clothing, as a clothing cloth or whatever. Yeah.
And in the end, he ended up giving this robe away in Bethlehem to a baby in a crib. Only to find that he was part of history, that he felt that he was the biggest failure in the world, Hafid, and yet he missed it.
Part of a miracle.
He didn't see that the star was following him home to say, this is the dude, man. Because what had happened is that we thought he had failed by not selling the robe.
Yes.
He actually had made it available as the most important incident that happened in little Bethlehem. So I want to just read you on page 27. Instead, the youth, after failing to sell the robe for 3 humiliating days, presents it to a warm newborn baby sleeping in a manger in a cave. And he did never notice the bright star. And would you care to guess which city he was on his way to? Damascus.
Damascus.
From Bethlehem And that's what happened on his way to Damascus. So when we hear the cities, we hear he was in Germany, although he was in Frankfurt, and all of a sudden his businesses went through Damascus. Then you've heard about Habib or Hafid, and you see how he was led through Bethlehem, but he was also on his way to Damascus. And we find that we are definitely called to be in different places at a specific time. You know that there's a specific address where you and I need to be at a given point of our life.
Yeah.
And so then Og tells his whole story, as you don't know, about Hafid. And for the sake of landing this plane tonight, fast forward, what happens? Simon Potter, he starts
Simon
asking,
Potter,
what is your son's name? Eric's name? What's your wife's name?
What's your wife's name? And then his wife's name comes out as like, okay, Lisha. And then he was like, oh goodness, what did I write?
And what did Og do? And Og said, hold on. Please go to
show
page 24.
Yeah.
And what Simon could not
Same name.
Is that Hafid's wife's name was?
Yeah.
Lisha.
Lisha.
And Simon Potter just went, Lisha, Lisha, Lisha. He could not believe that this man that he met in the snow, that he had helped, had written a book and had the same name. In the book that he wrote about Hafid and Lisha, was the name of Simon Potter's wife. Oh man, is that a coincidence?
What a miracle.
That
is a good question, yeah. That's a good question. It's as if he wrote a biography of Simon, but just in a setting in a Egyptian or the way back setting, the Bethlehem birth setting. Yeah, that's
so. As we end off tonight, here's the question to you, our listener. Do you know that you often will go to places that you didn't plan to be? You will hear names that you did not even consider. But every now and then, something just happens and it blows your mind of what a coincidence. But tonight I want to tell you, it's not a coincidence. As you think, so it becomes. So from Daniel and myself, I just want to wish you all a fantastic week ahead of you. And remember, you could be the greatest miracle in the world, but you need to understand how it works. See you next week. Cheers for me.
Ciao.